Hear me okay? Yes, nice to see you all. I've switched my screen over now and so I can see your faces. And if you have video to turn on, I would love that. It's so nice to see your faces, especially when we're engaging story. So hi Rebecca, hi Lena, hi Denise, hi Gigi, hi, welcome Claire. Hello, hi Jill and Shayla. And Ashley, thank you so much for hostessing this and bringing us all together. And wow, what a gift to practice with you, Naveen. Is Naveen still with us? Is she wonderful? I just really feel centered and grounded and embodied, and such a gift, because also I know how much Talaya appreciated Naveen and the practice, the Katona practice. She spoke so highly. And Talaya and I were very good friends, very close friends. And we still are very good friends. I love her and I miss her. And one of the things that was very deeply connecting for T and I is the trust. I knew that I could trust her. And I really believe that she knew she could trust me too. And the trust was, a heart trust. I could trust T's heart. And hi, Kristen. Welcome. I could trust T's heart. I could trust her vision. And I also could trust her discernment. I trusted her boundaries. I trusted that when she said no to something, that was for a greater purpose. It was for the purpose of something bigger. Do you know what I mean? And it was a real inspiration, that kind of discerning boundaries. Because in our culture, especially in our world of spiritual seeking and yoga and wanting to connect and to contribute in community, boundaries sometimes gets to be like a bad word, But discernment is such an important piece of our practice, especially when we are wanting to be inclusive, when we are wanting to share and spread and expand, to hold in that other hand the real clarity that comes from the sword of discernment. And I feel like Talaya held that sword and wielded that sword very well. And I have a story I want to share with you today that really connects into that idea of discerning wisdom around when and where and who and how to share your yes. Because you think every time you say yes, you really are saying no to a million other things. It's built in. No is built into yes. And yes is built into no. When you say no, you're opening to myriad things as well. Yes or no? Yes. So this story of stone soup is a story that you may have all heard before. The story of, I think the first time that this story is recorded in the European countries is in France in around the early 1700s. But the story is so living that I think there's evidence that it actually was passed on, as a folk tale, living in the folk tale traditions of word of mouth storytelling before it was even recorded, and folktale traditions in both Asian countries and European countries. And this story always begins with a traveler, doesn't it? If you've heard this story before. So there's a traveler, a wanderer, and sometimes the traveler is alone. Sometimes the traveler is with companions, but the traveler is hungry. And that's the catalyst for the whole story, is that there's a hunger. And so the wanderer sets himself up in the thoroughfare of the village, in the main street or the center of the marketplace, or sometimes in the home of unattended children. And he begins to make soup. Only this soup is has one ingredient, and that is a stone. And he starts to boil the water around the stone, or maybe it's 2 stones, sometimes it's 3 stones, depending on how the story is told. But the stone soup is the story that he tells as people are coming up and they're curious. And they say, what is happening here? There's this boiling pot of water and some stones. And the traveler begins to tell the story of this soup and how this soup is the most fantastic soup that anyone has ever tasted. And all of the flavors and all of the aroma. And oh my goodness, if they just stick around, they're going to have the best soup they've ever had in their lives. And of course, their curiosity is piqued, but also is their doubt. Soup made out of stones? Like, that's just not how soup is made, right? You don't get soup from a stone. But this wanderer is so charismatic and continues to tell, no, really, this soup is going to be so delicious. Wait until you taste it. And so the passersby are so interested that they say, okay, we're going to trust this. I want to be involved. I want to taste this soup. But the wanderer says, no, you can't taste it unless you contribute something. You have to have something contribute to the soup. Okay, well, this piques their doubt a little bit more. Wait a minute, I have to give something for this soup? But everything that I have is valuable to me. What I have is meaningful. It's mine. Can I trust giving this, my gifts, my things, my vegetables, my spices, my things, whatever I have to this soup? But again, charismatic wanderer convinced them, yes, we need to be involved in this soup. And so they all, one by one, they go back to their homes and they raid their cellars and they pull things up from their gardens and they find their spices and they, one by one, bring an offering, something that they have, to the soup. And they lay it down. And one by one, the wanderer says, go and come back in an hour and the soup will be ready. So after an hour, there's this aroma that fills the air, and this it's kind of bringing all the people back to the soup, and they come back and they look and they see that there's this pot brimming with the most scrumptious combination of vegetables and spices, and there's this delicious scent that fills the air. Now, what happens next is a big tell of the story of who is this wanderer. Because in some stories, what happens is that the wanderer turns out to be a charlatan. And in other stories, versions of the story, the wanderer turns out to be a sage. What makes the difference is how the story ends. Now, the charlatan, if the charlatan shares the soup at all, he keeps the lion's share. And the whole time he's reminding the people, the soup, it came from my magic stone. Don't you wish you had a magic stone? And when he packs up the soup and he packs up the pot and he packs up the stone, he packs up the magic. And he takes the magic with him. And he moves on to the next village to perform the magic trick again and to feed his belly again. But the sage shares the magic. The sage reminds the people always, hey, you are the ones who created this soup. It's your carrots, your potatoes, your spice, your beans that went in to make this soup delicious. The sage honors each person for their contribution. And Talaya was the sage. She brought us all together with all of our gifts. And she was able to do that because she knew the secret of the sage is that the sage knows that all of these are all of these archetypes, all of these symbols of the story are all inside of each one of us. The charlatan is looking for outside sources to fill his cup, his soup bowl. But the sage knows that when we share our gifts, we're really sharing the reflection of who we all are, right? Your beauty, your gifts, each one of us. Talaya did that. She did that for me. And I know she did that for so many of you. One of Talaya's favorite things about contemplative mythology was the realization that all archetypes are inside of each one of us. The villain, the victim, the hero, and all the myriad faces that they bring. So I ask you, I'm going to ask you 4 questions, and I'd love for you to journal them. So get out your journal, your pencil, and take a moment to just climb into your body. Bring your hands to your lower belly. And you can create a little triangle with your hands, the yoni mudra, thumbs touching, index fingers touching, and just slide it right below your belly button so that your index fingers are right about the level of your pubis. Your thumbs are just below your belly button. And breathe into your belly, this lower part of your abdomen. In Inner Power Yoga, we call this the lunar core, the watery, earthy core. Can you climb deep into that place with your breath? Can you send life force into your pelvis? Feel prana expanding and moving in the area of your deep desires. Now I want to ask you right here as you breathe as deeply as you can to tap into the unconscious message of your desire. And first thought, best thought. So a lot of times what happens is we get asked some deep, meaningful question, and then our mind, our ego mind, our conscious mind tries to get involved in these kind of tricky, sticky ways. So I'm going to ask you first thought, best thought, really just letting what comes up from your unconscious to be heard and honored and trusted. Not to manipulate it or try to make it make sense, but to breathe into your deep belly and to listen for the first thought, best thought when I say, what are you hungry for? What are you hungry for as you've been making your way, a wanderer in this human experience, a traveler through all of this ins and outs and ups and downs of being alive? What do you desire? Open your eyes and take a moment to write that, take note of that. When you take note of it, when you write it down, it becomes alive. When we bring words to things, whether they're written or spoken, is how they live. What do you desire? What are you hungry for? I'm just going to give you about a minute. Sometimes the energy unpacks, like sometimes it can feel a little wound, and we can unravel through the practice of bringing words. What are you hungry for? What do you desire? Creation stories all around the world begin with desire, a desire to be, a desire to be, a desire to be seen, to be known, to be with, to witness, to connect, to create. So, this desire, this hunger that you hold deep in your belly is sacred, in fact. It is the same desire that does, in fact, inspire the creation of the entire cosmos. And that's the truth. Once you've written that and played with that for just a moment, I want you to bring your hands to your lower ribs. So close your eyes again. So hands just flat against your lower ribs, honoring your diaphragm. Breathe. And as you breathe into your diaphragm, you can feel it moving down into your lunar core on your inhalation. You can feel it moving back up into that little nest beneath your ribs as you exhale. And as you connect into this movement, I want you to imagine as you inhale, the diaphragm moves down, and just imagine a sunrise in your heart, in your chest, in your lungs, so that as your diaphragm moves down, there's an energy, prana life force that builds at your heart. That's the sunrise feeling. And as you exhale and the diaphragm moves back up into this little nest, you feel a softening in your belly, in your lunar core, like a sweet little sunset in the ocean, like the sun going into the ocean and turning dark. Sweet. And do that a few times with your breath, inhaling and exhaling right at your sunrise, sunset horizon, your diaphragm. And as you explore the somatic experience of sunrise, sunset right here at your solar core, that's what we call it in inner power yoga. At your solar core, you're going to ask yourself, what are you curious about? What makes you curious? When you listen to the voice of your hunger, your inner desire, what is the corresponding curiosity? What if I? What would happen if I take this step or do this thing or open this door or say yes in this way? What is your curiosity? And while you're here in this solar core, sunrise, sunset, I also want you to invite in the sister question, which is, what is your doubt? What is the story of limitation that answers that question, that says, oh, the doubt, it won't work because, or you can't, here's why. What is your curiosity? And what is your doubt? As you breathe, and I want you to honor both, because it's the voice of your doubt, the shadow stuff, that sometimes holds the most powerful messages. And when we illuminate those shadows, we eliminate those shadows. So open your eyes. And I want you to take a little time with that. I'm going to give you 2 minutes because that's really technically 2 questions. What is your curiosity and what is your doubt? I am curious to find out what would happen if. And this is why I don't. Both. One of my favorite stories right now is the story of the Devi Mahatmya, the great goddess, and how she conquers all of these demons. Each demon is like a version of shadow stuff. And one of my favorite demons in the story, yeah, I have a favorite demon, favorite shadow, is this demon of Raktabija, the demon that just every single time a drop of his blood hits the ground, he becomes cloned. Another demon, just these little demon clone army coming after the goddess. And the story, in the story, she's also splitting into these little mothers, the matrikas, to fight with her sword and her club and her you know, all of her weapons, her spear, and she's drawing more and more blood off Raktabija, and so more and more drops are hitting the ground, and more demons are cloning. And it isn't until Kali comes from her third eye, from the discerning place, and gobbles up all of those demons and all of that blood and the original Raktabija demon, and takes those demons into herself, then that demon is defeated. You see, we have to sometimes own the shadow stuff and make it a part of who we are instead of fighting, against it all the time, to actually say, what is my doubt? What is that self-doubt? To own it. Because sometimes those fears, those insecurities, they give you the power, the courage to step in to this play, this yes, with discernment. They bring you into a place of discerning. What would happen? What's the worst thing that can happen if I say yes and I take this step? And what can I do right now to mitigate that, to prevent that from happening? That becomes a part of the creative play. Yes? Ready to move on? You can come back. Bring your hands to your heart. Sit tall. As you reach down through your sits bones and you lengthen up through the top of your head and you find yourself a conduit of creative power, you recognize that the crossroads are right here at your heart. This is the crossroads between your vertical plane, your horizontal plane, connection to the cosmos, the earth, and to each other. And it's here when we listen that we can sense, hear, experience the vision of the witness, the eternal witness that's in you. That witness that's in you, that inner guru, that inner teacher, is the audience of your play, the audience of your dance. You are the dancer, and you are the audience, and the audience lives right here. This witness sees you in your beauty. This witness sees all of your gifts, all of your spices, all of your vegetables, all of your beans, all of the things that you have to contribute to the collective that is outside of you, mirroring the inside of you. What are those gifts? What are the things that have flavored your life so far? All of your experiences and your identities, your education, all of your failures and your successes, the ways you've grown, the flowers, the weeds, right? We make dandelion soup. What are your gifts? Your identities, your favorite things. For me, it's mother, storyteller. I love beauty. I love connection. I believe in love. What about you? Who are you? What are your gifts? First thought, best thought, when you open your eyes, I want you to list them and just let your pen go wild. What are your gifts? Open your eyes. These are the things that you're putting into your soup. These are the things you can trust. And just take a moment. And again, first thought, best thought. Sometimes when we think too much about these things, we get all kinds of tangled. So just letting them well up, bubble up from the deeper places. From the less conscious, less ego blocked spaces. You know what I'm saying? They don't have to have hooks around them. Mhm. And just take a few more seconds and let the list pour. You have gifts, you have dreams, you have visions, you have experiences. All of these are so meaning and valuable, so meaningful. What's the worst thing that can happen if you don't share these gifts? Now is the time. And when you're ready, sit tall and just bring your hands to the back of your head. So, right where your skull meets your neck, it's called your suboccipital region, right? There's all these little muscles that hold your head on. And if you massage and palpate right where your skull meets your spine, you might find maybe some tension. It's a lot of work to hold your head on. And feeling into that, notice how if you shift forward from that point, let your chin, you see what I'm doing? This forward head posture that we often do, we get like kind of sucked into the screen in front of us, the world in front of us. I notice it a lot at movie theaters, like when there's a really exciting place, a really exciting point in a movie, everyone's heads forward and their eyes are really big, you know, and they're like almost trying to reach, trying to grasp into the future to figure out what's going to happen next. And life is like that sometimes, where we're so curious what's going to happen next. And we're like, oh, forward head, big eyes, a lot of strain, a lot of tension. So to reverse that, we call this palatal plane in inner power yoga. Take your hands and trace along the cradle of your skull, and you find the base of your ears. Right at your, you feel that right where your jaw opens and closes, and then come around and you're going to be under your palate. So this whole part, your palatal plane, I want you to take this plane and slide it back. We're going to do the reverse of forward head posture and align your throat over your heart, over your solar core, over your belly. And as you align your ears over your shoulders, close your eyes and breathe. You can even bring your fingertips to your throat. We want to make sure that there's a lot of space, a lot of openness for your throat, for your voice. And as you're breathing here and feeling your breath move through your throat, I just want to ask you one final question. That is, who in your life has contributed to your soup? Who has shown a mirror, held a mirror to you to remind you of all of your gifts, all of your powers, your aromatic spices, your valuable contribution to the world? Who has done that for you? And how have you honored them? Is there someone in your life that has done that for you above and beyond? And have you honored them? Think of one person that you can reach out to today and say, thank you for being that mirror. Thank you for being that light. Thank you for reminding me of who I am. And as you breathe, bring your palms together in front of your heart. And just gently feel the breath moving all the way through from nostrils to belly, in and out. I want to honor you and Talaya for bringing us all together in this beautiful way, for shining a light on our gifts. And when we look in the pot, in the soup that Talaya left for us, we can find the stone that's left there is a diamond. The beautiful facets, multi-facets, the radiance that she contributed to this pot of soup is everlasting. We can use that diamond again and again and again to model this incredible community of love, of trust, and of beauty. Thank you so much. I'm really grateful to Talaya. I'm grateful to you, Ashley, and I'm grateful to all of you for contributing to this magical soup. Namaste.
Namaste.